welcome to the Reno Sparks Association of Realtors member meeting. Erica Lamb, our 2020 president, is going to go ahead and take over and get the meeting started.
Good morning, everybody, and thank you for tuning in. We have a lot to share with you in advocacy and legislative update, our 2021 Board of Director candidates, review of the budget and finances, and an economic update from Elliot Eisenberg, the bow tie economist. So let's get started. First thing we're going to do is do the Pledge of Allegiance. So please adjust your cameras, and if everybody doesn't mind, please stand and put your hand over your heart. And I'm just going to stand back. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. All right. Okay. As you know, standing to do the Pledge of Allegiance during Zoom is not the easiest. It's probably the more challenging part of the meeting. So let's go ahead and get started. We're going to go over a couple of housekeeping notes before we get started with the meeting. Please submit all questions via chat or the Q&A on the meeting bar, which is at the bottom of your screen. All microphones are muted upon entry. If you're having any technical difficulties, please call Katie at, write this down, 775-823-4028. She's monitoring the webinar for the association. At the end of today's meeting, I will select a number for those in attendance for this person to win a $50 gift card. And then also note our next meeting is going to be on Thursday, October 19th from 9 a.m. to 10:30 a.m. Our special guest speaker will be Realtor Paula Mathufer. I hope I got that right. Please visit the association website to register for this meeting. More details will be mailed out soon, so save the date. Now I'd like to take a moment to recognize our 2020 executive team for the association. We have Gary McDonald, President-elect, Sarah Scattini, Treasurer, and Angelica Reyes, immediate past President. Thank you for all your work and dedication this year. I'm grateful for your support and partnership during 2020. I'd like to begin today's meeting with the advocacy and legislative update. Joining us today for this update is Jim Nadeau. He's our Government Affairs Liaison for Carrera, Nevada. Tiffany Banks, General Counsel for Nevada Realtors, and Teresa McGee, CEO of Nevada Realtors. We appreciate you being here today, and now I'll turn the virtual mic over to Jim Nadeau.
Good morning, all. We'll start actually with Teresa and Tiffany with the update on both the National Association of Realtors, what's going on with them, and also what's going on with the Nevada Realtors in the state of Nevada. So Teresa.
Thanks, Jim, and thank you, Erica and RSAR, for inviting us. We really appreciate the opportunity to connect with the members at RSAR. This is a great format and something before Zoom that was a lot more difficult. So it's been great being able to do the circuit of the local associations during their meetings. I have a couple updates from NAR first, the National Association, in regard to their advocacy and just some other things that are going on. Importantly, we did find out a couple of these are really recent pieces of news. We found out flood insurance was extended, not just a couple of months extension, but a year extension, which would put it at the same time to be renewed along with the spending bills. So it's no longer a standalone bill. That offers a lot of hope that standalone bills are a lot harder to get through and get renewed. So that was some great news along the lines of flood insurance. There's also been some work on deciding how to decide who has to pay back PPP loans. They were working on some some language that would allow anything that was less than $150,000 just to be waived. That was moving through very quickly and now has hit some roadblocks. So we're hoping that disruption clears out soon, and a lot of mom and pop type businesses, a lot of realtors might be able just to not worry about ever having to repay it or talk about where they file any reports about how they spent it. Of course, some of the big news that Tiffany will get into deeper in a couple minutes is the eviction moratorium that the CDC issued. There have been a couple of lawsuits filed basically challenging that as, hoping to stay the execution of that order. Those were filed in Georgia and Tennessee. There's a little bit of procedural navigating that needs to be done, but we will see a lot of news. Hopefully some more people will sue also on this. NAR has chosen not to be a party to a suit, but will support plaintiffs who they feel have a good argument and good standing. There's just a lot to lawsuits on the CDC eviction moratorium. The National Association Annual Conference that's held in November, the registration for that opens Wednesday, and the theme is Find Your R. So they're going to, it's I think November 2nd through the 14th or 15th. It's a lot of days, a lot of different content on all the days. I encourage you to go look at the different offerings that they have. They have a lot of education, a lot of great speakers. And again, that registration opens tomorrow. They also, for those of you who are in President's Circle, the Hawaii trip that usually would happen in February is supposed to be moved to April, but they're still working on the details there. So just watch, if you're part of President's Circle, watch for that move as well. Moving to the state news, I feel like a reporter. Moving to state news, we're hoping to get some good news on reopening open houses very soon. We've been waiting. We keep thinking, oh, it's going to happen tomorrow. It's going to happen tomorrow. We don't know what it's going to look like. Please don't schedule open houses until you know what this language looks like. We will get it out to you. We've had some great communication between the state level and the locals in getting out any information that comes down from the state, from governor's orders. So please watch for that. But it has just been operose work. We just keep pushing it from every angle that we can, and it looks like we're finally making some headway. So everybody, please keep your fingers crossed there. We also will have our NVR conference, which will be October 27th through the 29th, and the formal announcement of that will come soon, but we're very pleased to get this sneak inside peek for being part of the webinar today. We have Tom and Mike Ferry on the same stage together for the first time. It's the first time they've ever done that. They are great sales trainers, and we hope that will bring in a lot of people. We also have a great political group coming up. We'll have Jim and April both on panels. So please look for that. It's going 3 hours a day for each of those 3 days. So tune into the portions that you like. And finally, I'll just cover briefly the elections. We finished the voter guide, which is our guide to members on candidates that are supported at the state level for our elections. That was approved today and will go out. And finally, I just want to remind everybody, because Tiffany's going to go next, we do have the legal information line for any legal questions that you have. Right now, that's operating from, we're still at home for the legal information line. So please email infoline@nvrealtors.org. That is how you can get a hold of Tiffany and Crystal to have your legal questions answered. So if anybody has any questions, please put them in the chat and we will be sure to answer them. And I am going to hand it to Tiffany to cover legal stuff.
I'll unmute myself. Thank you, Teresa. So I will just go over what we've been doing. Teresa touched on some of it at the state level. So let's start with the eviction moratorium, which was extended, Directive 031. The statewide directive was extended until the end of the day on October 14th. And so a lot of questions that we've been getting is, what is the interplay between the CDC eviction moratorium and the state directive? What applies? When should one be used? And a typical attorney answer will be, well, it depends. And truly it depends. And it's going to be a while until we see these cases actually appearing in front of judges for judges to determine, based on different criteria, if the CDC order would apply or if the state law would apply. The important difference is the CDC order requires a tenant to assert a declaration. So without a declaration, the CDC order essentially does not apply. There are different exceptions. Right now, we're saying that the CDC order just applies to non-payment of rent. We know that other parties will argue that it also extends to a 30-day no cause and other types of rental arrearages. We're still trying to navigate through all of that, trying to figure out what the best guidance is. And again, you'll talk to the Attorney General's office, they'll say one thing, you'll talk to a judge, they'll say another. So really trying to figure out their interplay. But what you need to know is, until the end of the day on October 14th, the statewide eviction moratorium is still in place. So you cannot file an eviction notice for non-payment of rent. Now, can you try to do your 30-day, and when we say no cause, it really is a cause, meaning their lease is up and you want your seller's right to the property, so you want to get them out. Well, you maybe have to do that 5-day after if they don't leave? Yes. So right now the court system is open for those types of notices. Today, about at 10 o'clock this morning, I'm testifying in front of the Nevada Supreme Court on the landlord-tenant mediation program. Teresa and I and our Carrera have been working really hard with Access to Justice Commission and other stakeholders on this program. It seems like there are a lot of moving parts. I don't have an update of what today will hold, but we're anticipating a lot of testimony from different sides. Chief Justice Pickering has given us the opportunity to present for about 15 minutes from the landlord's perspective. She's going to give the same to the tenants' interest groups for the tenants' perspective, and then the judges on their perspective to the burden on the court. And so we will update you guys after we, maybe something will come today. We'll see what happens. Then the last thing I wanted to touch on is the open house in-person showing, tenant showings. We know everybody's very antsy, and we know everybody wants to get in those properties. Very important that you do not try to show tenant-occupied properties. The original governor's directive has made it very clear that showings are not allowed, even if the tenant okays that. Now, once a property is in escrow, it's a different story. But what we're seeing is, on agent-to-agent remarks, agents are saying that with 24 hours notice, a tenant-occupied property can be shown. We're here to say, please do not do that. The directive is very clear. No showings are allowed, even if the tenant allows for that. And the reason I'm saying that is, like Teresa was saying earlier, we're getting to a point where we're hopefully going to be moving into the next phase of slowly opening up open houses and other criteria. What does that mean? That means the more that you follow what the governor's directive says, the more likely we are to get those things open. The LEAP committee does look at that stuff. They do look at our actions. So continue to stay the course and just stay away from those tenant-occupied properties. And that is a very brief update, because I'm jumping on Incline's meeting in a minute. But I'm happy to answer any questions you have. If you have questions for me after, please email infoline. I'll answer Erica's question before I hop off. And then also you can always email me directly at tiffany@nvrealtors.org. So Erica asks, how about inspecting a tenant-occupied home that is not on the market? So this is one that we've been in many talks with the AG's office, the real estate division, and there's nothing that talks specifically about once a property is in escrow, what have been the best practices that we've come up with, especially because the governor's stay-at-home shelter-in-place original directive is still in place. We've said that unless it's a habitability issue, if you're just going in to inspect the property, don't do it. If the tenant allows you to, again, there's nothing in the directive that specifically talks about inspecting the tenant occupied property. So if they allow it, you can do it. But we're really saying try to limit it to the really big issues of habitability that you need to get in. Don't just get in because we've heard stories of tenants saying okay, and then all of a sudden they got sick or there became other liability issues, and they have said, oh, I never said okay, I felt coerced. And that's the kind of the key word that Attorney General's office is looking at, if the tenant felt coerced. And we've asked them, well, how do you define coerced? Give us an example. And they've never given us an example. They say it's a case-by-case basis. So use your best judgment with that one. And with that, I don't see any other questions. I will hand it back over to Jim and Teresa, and I'll keep you updated on what comes out of the hearing today. So thank you all.
So thank you, Teresa. Thank you, Tiffany. Great update. So the first thing I'd like to touch on are, we have a number of realtors that are on this call or on this meeting. If you're not registered to vote, please get registered to vote. This is a very important election. And it's so easy. All you have to do is go to registertovote.gov, and if you have a driver's license or an state ID card, you can register to vote right from there. It's registertovote.gov. But this is so important. And as you can imagine, you've seen everything that's been going on for the last 6 months and how important issues to realtors have been affecting us. Your Reno-Sparks Association of Realtors Political Action Committee has been very active in interviewing candidates for office. We have one of our own, J.D. Draculich, is running for Reno City Council. So the voter guide will be out soon. It'll be out both in print and it'll be online. And online, you can go to Nevada Realtors Support.gov, and you will be able to see who the realtors are supporting statewide, but also within Washoe County itself. So 2 important things. Number 1, vote, but number 2, register to vote so you can vote. All right. Lots of stuff has been going on in local government. As you can imagine, local government has been just jumping through all kinds of hoops and things of that nature to try to address some of the COVID issues. Every one of the local governments have been struggling, trying to see what's going to happen with their budgets. But several of the things that have been going on is they're trying to address what they view as the eviction, what they're viewing as an eviction crisis. They really believe that when the eviction moratorium is no longer in effect, that there are going to be a number of evictions, and these will lead to homelessness and things of that nature. We'll see what really plays out in the long run. But the city of Reno has introduced what they call their CARES Residential Economic Relief Program. That's the buzzword. But that has various pieces to it. One is a residential rental assistance program. And in all of these rental assistance programs, whether it be the state program or one of the local government programs, the renter is the one that makes application for it. But if approved, when the check is cut, the check goes to the landlord. It doesn't go back through the renter. It goes directly to the landlord. And Reno, Sparks, Washoe County, and the state all have rental assistance programs in place, and they're all being administered primarily by Reno Housing Authority. So if you have someone that wants to apply, they can apply through either the local government pieces or they can go to the Reno Housing Authority. Many of the entities have now small business assistance programs. Washoe County has one that's being administered through the Nevada Association of Counties. The city of Fernley has one in place. So a number of local governments are trying to help small businesses. And part of the qualification for this is it has to have been impacted by the COVID-19 specifically. Reno is also working on a weekly rental relief program for motel owners who have been unable to evict and that type of thing. Reno is looking at a mediation, landlord-tenant mediation program. We know the state is, Supreme Court is working on it, but local governments are also looking at it. Sparks has already implemented a program. The mediation programs, at least at the local level, and we still don't know what the process is going to be at the Supreme Court level, but can be requested by either party, either the landlord or the tenant, as it goes through. And what I'll hit on finally is Washoe County. We've talked about this before. Washoe County is implementing a short-term rental regulation. They thought they had it settled on some language, and they were going to actually introduce the regulation on August 25th. Apparently, some people weren't happy with that language, and so therefore it's still in limbo. But it will be, that regulation will be specifically for the unincorporated areas of Washoe County. Reno and Sparks haven't implemented their own regulations yet. That will be, but as you know, the unincorporated area encompasses Incline Village, Crystal Bay, which has significant short-term rentals there. So unless you have questions, I think that's most of the stuff that's been going on. We're going to be, for the Fernley members, we're going to be doing some interviewing for the Fernley City Council. But again, it's key. This is really a very important election. The implications for the real estate community at the state level as well as the local level is very important. And I don't see any questions coming. So Erica, I'll turn it back over to you. And I think we made it within our time.
Yes, you did. That was impressive. Thank you, Jim, Tiffany, and Teresa for that update. Now I would like to introduce your 2020 treasurer, Sarah Scattini. She'll be reviewing the association's financial picture through July of 2020.
Good morning, everyone. Can everyone hear me okay? Perfect. Thank you. I am happy and pleased to announce that we had 83 new members welcomed this month on our September 10th Reno Sparks Association of Realtors new member orientation. So that was really neat. As you can see, we have about 8 months of operating funds. We have leveled off the last 3 months. We are usually hovering at about 8.62 or so. And we started off, so February, March, and April, we went from 10.72 months of operating funds to 8.98. And so it was a huge drop, of course, because of COVID. And so we have been hovering kind of with the average of our last 6 months. We've been hovering kind of around that 8.5 or so. But right now, the month ending in July was 8 months. Next slide. And here is the graph, just kind of showing our April through June, how it dropped drastically from due to COVID. All right, next slide. All right. And so current We pull, let's see, where are we at? We have our total cash, for 2020, we have, $1,515,566.20. In 2019, we had, we were at $1,713,913.27. And so it's about a $200,000 drop, from last year. Next slide, please. Our realtor, our assets, our current assets right now are $2,219,359.68. In 2019, it was $2,254,091.42. So we're slightly down, as we have been pulling from our general fund. Next slide, please. Okay. Our total assets, continuing on, we're at $3,532,435.28. And last year we were at $3,611,615.74. So we're down about 79,000 from last year, as we are short on cash and depreciation. Next, our liabilities and net assets. Our total liabilities are $524,031.28. Our net assets are $3,532,435.28. And we're on, yeah, correct slide. Okay, cool. We're at 46%, and we're short about 20. We are actually down 12% of our budget from where we were expected to be at this time. So we are at about 58% of our through our budget of this year. And our last slide is we are at, in real life, we're at 164,964, and we estimated we were estimating 256,703. So we are down 91,000. But we are on, through our August and September, we are on an upward, we're back on an upward trend, which is lovely. So we are in the positive at 58% of our budget of the year. So quick and easy. Any questions? Please write in the chat for us. And then, I am going to here we go. I'm announcing our 2020 President-elect, Gary McDonald, to give us some exciting news about our NNR MLS trustees for 2021. Welcome, Gary.
Thank you, Sarah, and good morning, everyone. Before I begin with my scripted material, I'd like to say that the political report that we received this morning from our lobby team with Carrera, Nevada, it's so important that we support our PAC. And there was nothing on the agenda this morning talking about the PAC, but as Jim mentioned, politically, realtors are typically looked at as low-hanging fruit, and we've been having good numbers. And so every single state organization, every single local government organization, everyone's going to be looking for money. And so things like real property transfer taxes, assorted fees, being able to work in Reno, Sparks, Carson City under one license, all those sort of things can come back into the picture. And so it's important for us to remember that as we support candidates, we do not look at political affiliation. We support candidates with our PAC that support realtors' issues. So that's what we're doing every single time. And So if any of you have any questions about the PAC, please give me a call. Our chair for the PAC committee this year is Carol Murphy, and our chair-elect for next year is Fred McElroy. So any of those people, anyone on those committees can easily answer any issues and questions that you might have going forward. So it's with great pleasure that I would like to take a moment and congratulate the 2021 Northern Nevada Regional MLS trustees, hereon known in my talk as the MLS, and wish them much success in 2021. So our own Angelica Reyes, past president, is the director trustee. Pat Schweiger is our RSAR trustee. Ken Edmondson is our RSAR broker trustee. Dan Ryder is an RSAR broker trustee, and Helen Graham, who has been the vice chair of RSAR NNR MLS, is now going to assume the role of president. So congratulations to all of you. We look forward to working with you in the coming years. So thank you all very much. Finally, regarding MLS, I'd like to send a special thank you to Amy Shockett. Amy Shockett has worked so hard and so diligently over the past 3 years as the MLS president. We wish you continued success and appreciate all the work you've done in your tenure as president. Congratulations again to all of the MLS trustees. I look forward to working with all of you in 2021. As the incoming 2021 RSAR president, I'm delighted to have the opportunity to introduce the candidates for the open positions on the 2021 Board of Directors at our association. It is my privilege to first introduce the candidates who are running unopposed in the 2021 election. Sarah Scattini is running for 2021 president-elect. So thank you, Sarah, very much.
Thank you, and thank you all for your votes, and thank you. I can't wait to serve you, and I'm going to do a great job for you.
Running for treasurer unopposed, Sarah Sharkey.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much, and looking forward to working with everybody and for this new 2021.
And also running unopposed is Joe Reisenauer, our 2021-2022 Fernley director. And this guy knows that market. If you have any questions about Fernley, Joe is a resource for you. Good morning, Joe.
Good morning. I am looking forward to serving our membership here in 2021.
Thank you, Joe. Congratulations to you all. You will be affirmed on September 29th when the election results are announced. I truly look forward to working with all of you next year. Now it gives me great pleasure to introduce the remaining candidates on the ballot for the 2021 Board of Directors. Now this is about service, everyone. This is about stepping up and saying, okay, I'll spend my time, I'll bring my expertise, and I'll share what I know with the open heart and the open mind of learning as I go as a 2021 Board of Directors member. We're going to give each candidate a few moments to introduce themselves and give one reason why you should vote for them. So let's begin with the candidates for affiliate director, and I'll begin with Aaron Schiller, affiliate director candidate. Good morning, Aaron.
Good morning, Gary. I want to thank you, Gary. Thank you, everyone. I've been in the real estate industry for 32 years, and I love what I do. I think all of you know that. I love the industry and with all my heart. I've been a member of the association for 30 years, and I have been very involved and served on every committee with this association. I'm running for affiliate director because I feel that my past, present, and future insight and experience will help our association grow and support our membership. I would appreciate your vote, and thank you very much.
Aaron, thank you very much, and thank you for your past and future service. Now, Ronnie Schofield, also running for affiliate director. Good morning, Ronnie.
Morning, Gary. Everybody, thank you for having me on. I'm super excited, and I hope that, let me introduce myself first. Sorry, I'm really excited about this. So I'm Ronnie Schofield. I'm with First Centennial Title, and I would like to have your vote for affiliate director. And my main reason is, if you guys haven't seen, I put out a video on Facebook, and this is what I said. I stated RSAR mission statement And their mission statement states, our mission is to proactively enhance our members' opportunity to be successful, ethical real estate professionals by delivering superior advocacy, education programs, products, and services. So my intention is to work alongside this mission statement to enhance each and every one of yours memberships, with innovative ideas and different materials, while still remaining an advocate for realtors and affiliate members. So, I really look forward to serving you guys in 2021. And I think that there's a lot of just new energy I can bring to the table, and I'm really excited. So thank you, Gary.
Ronnie, thank you very much. And thank you both for putting forth your energy to serve our board. Now let's move forward with the candidates for the director's position. The first name on the ballot is JJ Ballard, and I'm pleased to announce that he won't be here because he's fishing and he's away from media and can't come to us and talk today. So I think we're all just a little bit jealous of JJ for not being here. But JJ, thank you for putting your name forward and running. Now, the second person on the list, Bo Keenan. Bo, good morning.
Good morning, Gary.
Nice to see you again. Would you take some time and tell us why you're a good candidate for our board?
Yeah, absolutely. Again, Gary, thanks for your time and thanks for all the leadership there at the association. We appreciate what you guys do. I have verbally said that a lot, but I've never joined you or volunteered to help out. So now is that opportunity. It could be said that I'm probably too busy playing roles as president of Dixon Realty, helping get started with 2-3 developments in town, as well as just leading a team of successful agents for the Keeney Group specifically. But I think with that, though busy brings lots of experience and perspective. So I look forward to potentially being able to lead and have a servant mentality at the board and bring the perspective from the experience I've had over the last 7 years and all the various aspects of real estate to help enhance, I love that word that Ronnie used, just the experience for agents and realtors, but also for the clients, because we know that this industry is under attack and they're trying to replace us as agents, which we know that's not the best thing for our clients. But I look forward to the opportunity to potentially serve and help out in any way that I can.
Thank you very much, Bo. Third on the list, Mike Nolan. Mike, welcome. How's the puppy?
Good morning. Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Gary, for this opportunity to speak. And as a new parent of a terrier, I need some sleep, but doing well. Thank you. I'm Mike Nolan, and I've had the privilege of serving RSAR in several capacities over the years, and I'm got to tell you, I'm honored to be on the list with all the folks who are running for board seats this year. I think that my real focus would be to promote the interests of members and the image and the professionalism of our association, and I think that's important. We have several challenges, and going forward. And I think we're doing a good job, and I'd like to be part of that team. So I appreciate your vote. Thank you.
Thanks, Mike, and good luck with getting some sleep with a new puppy. Next on the list is Chris Rayner. Chris, good morning and welcome to the meeting.
Good morning, everybody. So I'm Chris Rayner, and I am running for re-election. I currently sit on as a board of directors. I'd love to continue that service, but my background is I've been in real estate for 15 years, started in lending, and then switched over to the dark side to selling. So ran an independent brokerage in both California and Nevada and bring a lot of experience with me, and I would appreciate a vote.
Thank you very much. And certainly last but not least, but with a W in your name, you're going to be at the bottom of the list alphabetically, Michael. Good morning to Mike Wells. Welcome, and tell us why we should vote for you, Mike.
Hey, thanks, Gary. And yeah, nothing used to upset me more in grade school was when we did things alphabetical. I was always last. And then one time in high school, they decided to reverse it. It totally took me by surprise. I didn't handle it very well at all. But yes, good morning. My name is Mike Wells, and I'm running for a seat on your board of directors. And for the last 35 years, I've been helping companies and real estate brokerages, some that I've owned, some that I've managed on behalf of others, through this continuing change that we're experiencing through the hands of technology. Now, my goal is to share my skills and my experiences with the Rail Sparks Association of Realtors, and with your vote, I'll be able to do so. Thanks a million.
Mike, thank you very much. So thank you to you all for stepping forward and joining us today. For a full biography on each candidate, please visit the RSAR website. Our voting is open until Monday, September 28th at 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. You can vote online, you can vote in person, you can vote via email or via USPS with the paper ballots. No late ballots will be accepted. Thank you all very much. It's been a pleasure to visit with you today, and I'll kick it back to Erica.
Right. Thank you, Gary. Oh my goodness. Good luck to all the candidates, and thank you for being here today. Before we move on, I would like to thank those members who have served our association at the highest level as our past presidents. These individuals continue to serve the association and membership in a variety of ways. So when you see one of our illustrious past presidents, please thank them for their continued dedication to our association. We have Angelica Reyes, 2019 past president, Doug McIntyre, 2018 past president, Bill Process, 2016 past president, Dave Hansen, 2015 past president, Mark Ashworth, 2014 past president, Helen Graham, 2013 past president, Kevin Sixstad, 2012 past president, Sherry Cartanella, 2011 past president, and Ken Amundson, 2010 past president. Thank you so much for everything that you have done for our association and that you continue to do. Now, I'd like to take a moment and update you on the societies, institutes, and councils of our association. We have CCIM, Certified Commercial Investment Member. The national conference is November 5th and 6th and November 9th to 11th as a virtual event free to members. Visit ccim.com for more details. The Commercial Real Estate for Women, known as CREW. The 2020 CREW and NAIOP Charity Golf Tournament is September 25th. Visit crewinn.org for more details. The Institute of Real Estate Management, known as IREM. The Member of the Year Awards is going to be on September 30th. Visit iremnb.com for more details. Then the National Association of Residential Property Managers, known as NARPM. Visit their website at northernnevadanarpm.org for upcoming events. We have the Residential Real Estate Council, RRC. CRS Week is September 21st to the 25th, which is right now. Visit crs.com for more details. This is their week of education. And the Veterans Association of Real Estate Professionals, known as VREP. Their national convention is October 26th to the 30th and goes virtual. Visit their website at vrep.net for more details. And finally, but definitely not last, the Women's Council of Realtors, WCR. They're having their national conference, which goes virtual on November 2nd to November 6th. Visit wcr.org for more details. Now, the part of the meeting that you have been waiting for, the economic review and look into 2021. We're delighted to have our guest, a man who has made his life work to make economics fun and interesting. We see him every month on To The Point Video, and many of you subscribe to his blog, Econ70. Our guest today is no other than our beloved bow tie economist, Dr. Elliot Eisenberg. Before I turn the virtual mic over to Elliot, I want to remind everyone that we have Q&A session at the end of Elliot's presentation. However, you can submit your questions via chat or Q&A on the bottom of your screen during Elliot's presentation. Elliot, I'm going to turn it over to you now.
Thank you so much, Erica. It's a pleasure to be here. I hope you guys all can hear me. Yes? Super, great. I'm going to share my screen now, and hopefully we'll get going with the presentation. I think you can all see it, so let's begin. There is so much to talk about, and again, thank you so much for bringing me out. I wish I were there in person, but hey, that's just the way it is, right? Under the conditions. Let's begin by reviewing GDP, what's working, what's not, and what's the most important place to look at. So GDP is composed of 4 parts, right? C, household consumption, the first term in the equation. I, the second term is corporate investments in plant and equipment. The third is government spending, G, and in brackets, exports minus imports. Quickly thinking about this, C and G are the most important terms. We need the government to help households spend money. The economy is improving, employment's going up, that's great, but we need a little more stimulus. I'd like to see a government package come through, and you'll hear me talk about this along the way. So I'd like to see more G, and the G would help C. We're not going to get a lot of corporate investments in plant and equipment in the near future. Firms are still nervous. Firms are opening up. Firms are realizing coronavirus is going to be here for a while. Maybe 8, 9, 10, 11 more months conceivably. So we have to deal with it and live with it, and we can't just stop in our tracks and wait. But we're not going to get a ton of corporate investment. We're going to get investment in stuff, plexiglass sheets and things like that. But buildings, I'm not so sure we're there yet. And last term, exports minus imports, sure, it could help or hurt. I think it'll hurt us a little bit. But in the grand scheme right now, it's really C that we need to see improve. We need household spending to continue to move because household spending, the first term in GDP, is 68% of GDP or 69. We need to see that stay strong. And in some cases, it is. It really is. There's no question. There are certain sectors of our economy that are simply absolutely rocking. A prime example is retail sales, real retail sales. This is inflation adjusted data. And you can see that it's as if that decline, that super V-shaped decline, it didn't happen almost. You can see here, we're bumping along, and then we just keep going right on. It's as if it never happened. There's this V in the middle. Yeah, I get it. But just the trend's good. Now, the good news here, trend is fine, no problem. It's as if it never happened. The bad news is it's not going to improve anymore. So we're not going to be able to look to retail sales to push GDP up. It's already done its work. It's finished. And you can see it here in this second graph. Look at this graph. You can see here, real retail sales decline rapidly in March and April, and then May is great, and June is good, and July and August. And you can see it's over. GDP growth, to move GDP a lot, we're going to need something else to do the work. That's the point. We're happy with this. It's done its work, but it can't do anymore. We have to find another sector in the economy. So let's look at automobiles. But it's kind of the same thing. If you look at this graph, you can see tremendous V-shaped recovery here, or near virtually V-shaped recovery. Not quite as strong as what we had in real retail sales, but really good. But you can see here, it's starting to veer out a little bit. So it started and then the slope kind of moves a little. So automobiles are starting to slow too. We've had terrific improvement for several months as we went from down here somewhere around 9 million units up to 15 million. But now the improvement's going to be much slower. And the most we can get to was about 17 because that's where we were before the pandemic. So we're almost back to normal. So we're not going to get cars to help us either. So you begin to run out of stuff. That's why the fiscal stimulus becomes important. We've had this terrific recovery, but the sectors that have quickly recovered have already done the recovery. So we're going to continue improving, but not quite as fast as we have. That's the key. And you see it in things like this. Bloomberg's consumer confidence numbers. There are a couple different places, 3 in particular, that put out consumer confidence numbers. The Conference Board puts out, Bloomberg puts out it on a monthly basis or weekly basis, I'm sorry, and the University of Michigan puts it out bi-monthly. And they're different, but this is the most favorable one. This one shows the most improvement compared to the other 2. And what you see here is initially terrific improvement from 35 up to 45, straight up, right? Terrific, V-shaped. And then it kind of dilly-dallies, it goes down, it goes up, now it's hung again. So it's continuing to improve, but the slope is much more shallow. If you look at my cursor, the slope here is really steep. From here to there, the slope is less steep. The slope will continue to decline. That's the issue. The easiest recoveries, the best sectors, the fastest recovery sectors have done their job. And now we're going to slow. And this is important, we don't know what coronavirus has in store for us. We know that Israel is the first Western developed country to go into a second lockdown. We know that Europe is talking about more lockdowns, and they're making things much more strict across Europe. They're trying not to go into lockdown, but they're fearful that they may have to as coronavirus cases start jumping up. And they're now about as high as they are here in the US. We don't know what's going to happen in the US, but we know like 35 states are seeing their coronavirus case rates go up. This is the red number in the graph I'm showing you. So we have some real concerns about what coronavirus brings in the fall. Will we be in the house more? Will we be staying indoors more, less outdoor socializing, more holiday stuff, Thanksgiving coming? Will this lead to a spike in coronavirus? I'm not sure. No one knows. But we're nervous. There's also election issues coming on, and there's the fiscal stimulus coming. So there's a lot of headwinds coming along here. And as I've said before, when's the vaccine going to come? This coronavirus thing is going to be with us for a while. Now, for housing, this is a good thing. I hate to live off the misery of others, but the longer this persists, the more people are going to want to get out of their apartment or a small condo, move to the suburbs, get something else, have a yard, get a pool, buy an RV, whatever. So this helps us, but it slows overall economic growth. And you can see in this graph of a survey of experts that the consensus of when the vaccine is going to come is somewhere in 2021. A bunch think it'll come in the first quarter, half of 21, and the vast majority think in the second half of 2021. So I want you to set your expectations right. In this past March, when the virus came, the hope was that by summer it would go away. Now we're already about to enter Q4, which is fall, and we're not there yet. We really aren't testing, and even once we test and it works, everything I read says the vaccine has to be stored at minus 112 degrees Fahrenheit. That's really cold. We don't have enough freezers to deal with this problem. So the number of impediments in going from the vaccine after stage 3 trials into inoculating 200 million Americans is quite serious. So don't think this is just around the corner and in February or March it'll be over. It's not. We're going to have this through summer, presumably. I mean, some to a lesser and greater degree in different states and this and that, but it's not going to be all clear sailing and blue skies until the summer, right? Think about that. And oddly enough, as you see in this graph, the confidence level Americans have in taking the vaccine, this hypothetical when it gets here, vaccine after stage 3 trials, has been declining. And it's been declining for Democrats in green, it's been declining for independents in light green, and it's been declining for Republicans in red. So all groupings, no matter who you want to win for the presidency, everyone's losing confidence in the vaccine. So when it comes, will we take it? I have some strong opinions on that and how to encourage that during Q&A, so keep that in mind. But there are some real problems here with the vaccine and getting it and inoculating us and herd immunity and so on. Getting back to the economy now, because of this uncertainty and rising coronavirus rates are very late, but declining in general over the last couple of months, this is a health crisis. You've got to remember, it's not an economic crisis. Look at this data here on oil, gasoline sales. They've been very good. They're now at their highest level they've been since the pandemic began. I think this is largely because of vacations people took. This elevated number the last while has been some vacation activity. I wonder what happens now that kids are back in school, whatever that means. we're not going to work so much. We know that. So this is not driving to work gasoline consumption. So it's probably longer trips and they probably decline. But you can see, even under the best of conditions, the last couple of months since July, we've been at somewhere around 90%, which is not bad, but not improvement. So we're not getting gasoline improvement. We're not getting retail sales to improve. We're not getting cars to improve. We got to get it somewhere else. Air travel, it's been improving, but it's got a long way to go. Actual numbers are here, number of people on this axis, and the gray dotted line, that's the percentage of where we are compared to where we would have been or where we were last year. And you can see we're at 30%, and we've been pretty flat, generally speaking, for the last while. So our economy, the growth rate starting to slow. We're going to get some specific numbers here. I'm going to give you them. I'm not trying to tease you here. My major thesis here is that growth in the fourth quarter comes back down to reality, and next year comes down to reality. And even when we get a vaccine, it's not going to be stupendous right away because so many gymnasiums have closed, so many restaurants have closed. And so you can see here, hotels. Hotel improvement seems to have been done. We had rapid improvement earlier on from week 16, 17 through week 27, 26. And then the slope begins to get shallower, and then it even goes down a bit. Now, there's seasonality going on here too, so I don't want to push the negative thing, meaning it's awful, it may not be, but we're not seeing big improvement anymore. That's the key. Things are generally slowing. So growth will necessarily have to follow with it. This is a whole bunch of real-time data. We're looking at dinners in this color here, dinners out in this color, airline travel in the darker color on the bottom, followed by hotels, and last but not least, just mobility data, walking, driving, and transit on the top color. And you can see they're generally flattish. That's the key. Whether they're up or down at the last minute, who cares? And you had some Labor Day weirdnesses there as well. The inverted V is Labor Day stuff. But you can see there was improvement, and then it's kind of not so improvement. So we're seeing more and more sectors of the economy kind of slowing. Doesn't mean we're not going to grow. We're going to grow. We're going to continue to grow, but not as fast as we grew. That's the key point here, right? Look at this graph on job postings. It's slowing down. It's still up. Yeah, good, great, but not as fast as it was in the past. That's the critical point. Now look at this graph. This is real personal consumption. So this is spending, all consumer spending on everything. The first graph I showed you was real retail sales. This is all consumption. So it's retail sales, it's insurance, it's getting a nose job, it's getting Botox, it's getting your shoes repaired, it's everything, right? Going on vacation. You can see here, we've made up a lot of the gap. So we fell substantially from here down to there, and then we moved back up, but the graph is starting to curve out. The more it curves out, that means the slower the rate of growth, the flatter the slope. And that's what we're getting. But look how much we've improved. We've improved about 80, 85%, right? All we have left is this piece here. It's $1 trillion, I get it, but we've made up 3 or 4 trillion, right? So great, but, look at the next graph and look at the gap. The gap here is pretty small. Look at the gap here. The gap here is much bigger. As a percentage, the gap is there's still 2/3 of the gap. This is real household income ignoring government expenditures. So we're ignoring the $1,200 checks and the $500 checks and the $600 per week top up in unemployment insurance, which is now $300 because of President Trump's executive order. This is what's going to sustain the economy in the long run, absent government intervention, which can't go on forever. This number here, as I said before, going back one slide, is much lower than this one here. Here we seem to have made up almost all the gap. But it's somewhat ephemeral, this, because it's not persistent. We need unemployment to fall lower to get more income to sustain this level. So this is more realistic. And you can see here, too, the curve is moving out. It's going up, but it's moving out. So Billy Joel talked about that somewhere, right, in one of his songs, moving out, moving in, Hoboken or something. Anyways, second term in GDP is I, corporate investments in plant and equipment. And here we're not going to see, as I mentioned earlier, firms rushing to build new plants. Are they going to build new restaurants? No. How about a bar? I don't think so. How about a retail store, shopping center? No, I don't think so. You know, how about a hotel? Not so much. How about an office building? Let's hold off on that one too. So there's lots of reasons to say, I don't think so right now. Firms are going to invest a lot in equipment and human capital and intellectual property. How can I do my job from home? How about buying a virtual private network so that people can work from home and not have to go, not come to work? How about plexiglass sheets? How about software allowing me to do things electronically in office buildings or in apartment complexes where I can stay home? There'll be investment there, but that's not nearly as big as construction activity, right? Construction is going to drive a lot of jobs. Increased purchases of intellectual property aren't going to do so much. You know, we all buy Zoom. Zoom hires a few thousand workers. We build a few office buildings and suddenly we have a lot of workers. So this is going to be a slower part of the improvement. It's going to be C, household consumption, that really drives the boat. How about firms? What are firms doing? Do we see firms investing in stuff? Not so much. Firms are holding back. This graph shows us in dark blue dividend payments, and they dipped a little. They're not that low, but they dipped a little. And share buybacks have really plummeted like a stone from over 200 billion just before the pandemic to now half, under 100 billion. That's a quarter. So this is a lot of money not going from firms to shareholders in dividend pay, in stock buybacks. So this is less money out there for us to spend and so on and so forth. Again, slowing the economy, and firms saying, I better hold on to my money because I don't know how long this will be, how long it will last, who will win the election, when the vaccine will come, will there be a stimulus package, will there be a second wave of coronavirus? It's just too many things to fundamentally keep track of at this point, right? The uncertainty is very high. The risks are much higher. Let's hold cash balances and decide what to do later. So I really would like to see a fiscal stimulus package come from Congress. We can argue how big, how much, this and that. The debt Republicans were up to 1.5 trillion. The Democrats were down to 2.2 trillion. 700 billion bucks to me, this doesn't seem like a lot of money. I mean, split the difference and go home and call it good. But politics is a strange game. I understand. I lived in DC for 20 years. So I'm and now with Ginsburg's death and now the new Trump going to appoint a new person in the Senate having to ratify it, I think that's going to take all the oxygen in Washington for the foreseeable future. So I don't see a stimulus package coming down the road. That's going to have some consequences because the poorer people who are unemployed, who need that money, aren't going to get it. They're not going to spend. On one hand, they're going to be more encouraged to look for work. I get that. But they're not going to spend, and that's going to bring down employment in the rest of the economy a little bit. So it's another damper on economic growth, preventing the V from occurring and making it more like a check mark, which I'll talk about shortly. Last but not least, there's exports. And exports minus imports, there's not a lot going on here. The dollar had gotten very, very strong when the pandemic began. When the pandemic started, everybody wanted dollars. They wanted cash. And you saw the dollar spike. Since then, the dollar's weakened a little bit, and that's been a good thing. Helps our exports a bit. But the U.S. isn't a huge exporter of stuff. We're the second or third biggest. Not small. But as a percentage of our economy, it's not that huge. What the U.S. is better at is bringing tourists to America, having students come here to get educated, and selling services. Royalties on music, royalties on movies, and that's all down now because of the coronavirus. So what we're good at, exporting services, isn't really happening. And what we're weaker at, exporting stuff, it's improving a little bit, but not a lot. So all in all, net, I think exports go down more than imports. So that's not quite a good thing, but it's not really by far the most important thing. It's consumer spending that matters. And of course, we have a trade war with China going on. So this is of concern. I mean, it's almost background music now, but if it weren't for the pandemic, this would matter. It's clipping a little bit off GDP too. So if you put this all together, what do we look like? This is a good measure of what we look like. It's a weekly economic index put up by a couple different economists. And it captures a whole lot of high frequency data, steel production, hotel occupancy rates, all kinds of stuff like that, unemployment numbers that pick up collectively the sense of where the economy is. If we think back to 2009, the pit of the last recession, the number is -4, right roughly where my cursor is. So right now, even though we've had 5 months of improvement, we're still worse off than we were at the worst of the last recession. So let's not forget, we've made a huge improvement, we've made tremendous progress, but there's a long way to go. That's my point here. Right? That's what I'm trying to impress upon you. And in terms of the future, what does it portend? All right, so Q1, -5% year annualized GDP growth, or negative GDP growth. So we lost roughly 1.25%, times 4 gets us 5%. In Q2, we lost about 32%, the worst quarter in US history, at least in the last 80 or 90 years. Maybe somewhere before the Depression, Civil War, maybe, I don't know, but in recent memory, post-recession, post-Depression, including Depression, we never had a quarter this bad. Q3, the quarter we're in right now, and we're about to end in a week, is going to be unbelievably good. Growth of 25%. These are almost unfathomable numbers. Decline of 32, a rise of 25. These are big numbers, but we haven't returned. We haven't recovered. Let me give you a quick example. If you're at 100 and you fall by 50%, you fall to 50. Then if you rise by 50%, you're at 75. So an equal percentage decline, a percentage decline followed by an equal percentage increase doesn't leave you back where you were. That's why GDP at the end of the year, at the end of the third quarter, will be down by -6, and by the end of the year by -4 or 5. We still have a ways to go. So we will be roughly, by the end of this year, we'll be roughly where we were at the worst of the global financial crash of 2008-9. So amazing recovery, but still meaningful progress still has to be made to get our economy back to where it was. So the recovery, you can see here, looks like a check mark. This is the check mark. Let's go back to this graph. You can see here, it goes down and then it goes up. The quick part, the easy part, and then it gets a little slower. So it looks something like this. Really bad, really good, and then it's just slogging through. And we're now slogging through. And it looks like this graph suggests, although no one knows, that we get back to where we were, the baseline of where we were before the recession began by the end of 21. I used to think it was kind of late 22, but now I've brought my estimate back to early 22 because GDP is doing better than I thought. Q3 is better than I thought. Q2, though terrible, wasn't quite as terrible as I thought. So everything's been a little better. So our recovery will be a little sooner. But there's still a ways to go. There really is. So, and as you can see, the slope now is much shallower here than it was over there. That's the key point I want to bring home. Let's talk about labor markets. They've made big progress, but there's a ways to go. This is first-time claims for unemployment. You can see they were at 7 million before, just as the pandemic began. Prior to this pandemic, the all-time historic high set in the double-dip recession of 1982 was just shy of 700,000, a tenth as high. It rapidly comes down, but the last couple months, the last couple months here, kind of slowing. Just this general slowing of economic improvement. It's improving. We've gone down from here to here, no question. But the rate's down, and the number is still around 700, 800,000. So we're still at, prior to this pandemic, this would be the all-time high in first-time claims for unemployment. So there's still a ways to go. This is total employment. So this is where we were before the recession began. Number of jobs, 155 million, 152 million, whatever. It falls precipitously, and we make back almost half. And by next week, when we get the September numbers, we'll have added another 6, 7, 800,000, a million jobs, and we'll be at halfway point. Great. But that's the easy half. We're up half. And you see the slope is starting to move out. It's not going up quite so fast. It's moving to the right. That means we're slowing down. So the key thing is we're growing, but we're slowing. And we're slowing from, of course, this crazy Q3 number of 25, 26, maybe 27%. I mean, just insanely high number. But this is not going to be what happens in Q4. No. Now, inflation. Is there inflation? No, there's no friggin' inflation. I cannot say this loud enough. People say, oh, we're going to have inflation, lots of fiscal policy stimulus, lots of monetary policy stimulus. No. It's not going to happen. First, it's not going to happen. This is central bank policy. This is pretty much what they've told us they're going to do. They are not going to raise rates through 2021, and almost all the Fed governors say not through 2022 either. Yes, the money supply is going up, arguably. But the velocity of money is collapsing. Money's not being spent. Banks aren't lending. Firms aren't spending. Households are saving. U.S. savings rates have skyrocketed. So the money's just not moving right now. During Q&A, we can talk about this more. If you look at CPI inflation, there isn't any. If you look at PCE, the Fed's favorite measure of inflation, there isn't any inflation there either. There isn't inflation anywhere going on right now, right? No inflation out there. To suspect that we're going to have inflation now, when unemployment is over 8%, and we have 10 million lost jobs and excess capacity in firms and way down reductions in production levels, is incredibly hard. Sure, we can have a bottleneck somewhere making diapers or something, but it's very hard to really imagine a sustained oil could shoot up or down or something. But whoa, man, you've really got to convince me hard there's going to be inflation out there. Let's quickly talk politics, and then we'll talk about housing, a lot on housing. And the news in housing is utterly, unbelievably, phenomenally good. It's the best sector in the economy, so don't leave me yet. Let's talk politics quickly. And what I'm going to say here predates the death of Justice Ginsburg. How Justice Ginsburg's death impacts both Democratic partisans and Republican partisans, I don't know. No one really knows this yet. The polling hasn't come out. But as of last Friday, the notion was if I had to bet, I would bet my daughter, I'm so sure, that the Democrats keep the House of Representatives. That one really wasn't, in my mind, all the data I read, up for grabs. I'm not a political pundit, but this is what the experts are saying, is what I'm showing you right here. In the Senate, whoa, it's super close. It's super close. And I think this whole Ginsburg, her passing and now replacing Ginsburg, I think the impact will be felt, if anywhere, probably most in the Senate, where someone like Susan Collins in Maine, for example, says she's probably not going to do any voting right now, right? So you've got senators staking out positions in large part because they got seats that are on the line. Cory Gardner, by contrast, in Colorado, another state that could flip, it's completely toss-up, said he would vote for whoever President Trump nominates, right? But you look at these states, there are 6 states that are really critical to watch. Ignore the other 44, they don't count. Look at Montana, look at Colorado, Iowa, Georgia, North Carolina, and Maine. These are the states that are going to determine the outcome of the Senate. If each party gets 3, it's tied 50-50, and the vice president breaks the tie. If one party gets 4, they have it, and they're happy at 51-49. At this point, all the data it's razor thin. This will be very exciting to watch on Election Day. And in terms of the presidency, again, prior to the death of Justice Ginsburg, it looked like it was Biden's election to lose. He's doing better. He's holding his lead. The conventions in August, Democrat and Republican virtual kind of worthless conventions, like infomercials on television, both of them, didn't really do much to either party. The numbers haven't changed a lot. Biden's lead has come down. It has tightened, there's no question. And this Supreme Court fight may well tighten it further. I don't know. I'm not a political pundit. But as of last Friday, it was Biden's election. Now, let's talk about real estate. And I want you all to stand up and say hallelujah. You're in the best sector in the entire economy, bar none. Look at every single sector: auto sales, retail, real retail sales, online sales, maybe as good as you are. I mean, you span the globe, right? Look at Europe. Your sector is the best. Maybe in China, there's PPE manufacturing is good. Maybe somewhere in, like, I don't know, somewhere in I don't know, Moravia or Bohemia somewhere, there's some better economy out there. But I doubt it. Sales of homes are absolutely fantastic. Look at this. This is first-time applications of people buying a house. V-shaped recovery, and then some. We're up 40% year over year. The right-hand side of the V here is higher than the left-hand side there. Congratulations to you. Things are stupendous. This is existing home sales. Data came out this morning. This graph doesn't have it. It's now surpassing a annualized rate of 6 million. So this arrow here, the line's actually now where my cursor is. So again, the V, the current side is higher than the historical side. So year over year, you're better than when you were in February before the pandemic began, and that was already a good time. So you're doing terrifically well, right, on these measures. But it doesn't stop. It doesn't stop. It's every single measure. Look at inventory. There isn't any inventory. 10, 12 years ago, there were 4 million units for sale. Now it's 1.5. Nationally, inventory, NAR came out with numbers, 3 months. Normal markets, 5 or 6. We're wildly inventory starved. Sellers don't want to put their house on the market because they're fearful people will walk in and give them coronavirus. They're nervous they won't be able to afford to buy a new house. They have a really low mortgage. They don't want to chance that, right? So there's a lot of reasons sellers don't want to sell, but buyers are eager to buy. They want to get out of New York City. They want to get out of San Francisco. They want to get out of Los Angeles, and they want to move to Tahoe, right? Or low tax Nevada, that's for sure. How about new home sales? They're out of their minds high. Home builders have never been happier. Home builders, a couple years ago back here when things were crummy, they were probably shooting themselves up with drugs and stuff to get happy. Now they don't need the drugs. Now they're crazy happy without. Look at the retail, look at sales of homes. They're now where my cursor is. Before the recession began, they were there. The V here is crazy because there's no homes. Builders haven't built homes in so many years. We're so under inventoried that if you can't find a house in the market, well, I'll have a builder build one for me. And that's what you see here. Just this massive amounts of construction, staggering. Lumber prices have gone crazy. They've tripled in price. It's unbelievable. Input costs, we're running out of workers again. In the middle of this pandemic, it's unbelievable. But the home builder sentiment has never been higher in the history of the NHB Wells Fargo Index. But builders are happier now than ever before. And you can see it here. Look at the improvement in housing starts. You can see it here. All housing starts in green, single fam in red, multi-fam in blue. They're spectacular. No matter what you look at, it doesn't really matter. They're all terrific. They've all this V-shaped recovery, V-shaped recovery, V-shaped recovery. And next month, it'll be a little better. Sentiment among the builders has continued to improve, and the start numbers will continue to improve because they can sell everything that they've got. There's no limit. Any listing that you can get will sell. Any start that a builder builds, it'll sell too. Because there's no inventory of new homes either. This is critically important. No inventory of new homes. Builders are really good at this. Look, green is permitted but not started, so it doesn't really matter. There's not much money there. Blue is being built. There's plenty of those. But look at red. Red is built, finished, done, completed, and the builder's carrying the interest, carrying the carrying costs. They're very low. The builders don't have supply out there. There's no existing supply. There's no new supply. We have pent-up demand from the spring that never happened. We have pent-up demand because of prior to coronavirus, the market was strong. Now we have pent-up demand because of COVID. We all want to live in suburbia and have a yard and a place and a front lawn or a back lawn or whatever it is and get out of our 500 square foot apartment or 800 square foot apartment that we're in all day long and we hate. So there's just huge demand, no supply, no inventory, no new inventory, no old inventory, 3 or 4 reasons, interest rates that are crazy low. It's unbelievable. Prices keep rising. This is interesting because if you look back 12 years ago, you see this massive decline in price, profound decline, then a rally, and then another decline in price. Not now. Now, maybe prices, the rate of growth is going down a little, maybe, I'm not convinced, but it's hanging up there at around 3%. And this is the best measure of price appreciation. It's comparing the same house over time. This is unbelievable. So in the midst of a pandemic, there's unprecedented demand for housing. Unlike the last recession, where demand disappeared completely, there was massive supply and no demand. Now there's massive demand, no supply. It's completely the opposite of last time, right? Completely. You can take nothing from the last recession and use it productively in this recession. The last recession is a series of bad turns where everything you thought you knew about recessions was completely wrong. The housing market is remarkably strong right now. Refi activity is tremendously strong too. The banks are totally happy with that. They're thrilled out of their minds with it, right? And the key question I want to ponder with you as we end this discussion is, will this persist? Is this strength that we're witnessing across the board in the housing market, be it new or existing, going to persist? Is it just an artifact of COVID? Is it an artifact of the spring season being wrecked because we were in lockdown in March and April? Or is there something systemic here that's going to last it's going to last in the secular period? It's going to be a long thing. And I think it's more the latter than the former. I do. Here's the first reason. The number of people aging into first-time home buying is huge. It's huge. Look at these light blue bars. They're of all the blue, the light blue, the dark blue, and the yellow, that's the millennial generation. The highest, tallest bars are the ones to the left of the green. The green's when people buy homes, by and large, 32, early 30s. This group is aging into home buying. This whole blue group were renters for a long time, and they drove multifam terrific. Multifam recovered much faster from the Great Recession than single fam. Single fam never recovered. Multifam did. Now, however, it's single fam's turn. They're getting older. They're getting married, they're buying a house, they're having a kid, or maybe they're having a kid and never getting married and buying a house, or buying a house and having a kid and getting married. Now they're getting a tattoo. The order doesn't really matter anymore. But the point is, wow, the demographics here are super, super strong, right? Amazingly strong. Number two, credit is hard to get. This is hard to believe at some level because the demand is overwhelming. Loan officers are out of their mind. You guys are chasing the beaten down looking for listings, but it's getting harder to get a loan. This is the legacy of Dodd-Frank, right? So look at this. This is where we were. We were here at the worst of the recession. Things begin to improve for 10 years. And in the last 5 months, what's happened? Over 60% of the improvement from the Great Recession has been eliminated. Banks are saying, whoa, let's hold back. Fannie and Freddie are putting overlays or whatever. I'm not an expert here, so don't quote me on that. But this is from the MBA. There's no question it's getting harder. And put this into perspective here, people. This is the way it was before the recession began, the last recession of 2008-9. Look, the index was at like 900, right? It then falls to 100. Then reluctantly it gets up to where it was, only now to fall by 2/3 from where it was most recently. So credit's way harder than it was. And even so, there's still great demand. Imagine if credit gets a little easier. We'll have demographics and we'll have credit in our favor, right? But there's more. There's education. Look at the impact of this recession. Now, and generally, it happens in all recessions. You can see the last recession, those with a high school, less than high school in blue, had the highest unemployment. Here it was again. Blue had the highest. But look at the yellow, the people with college degrees. It's come down quite rapid. Didn't go up that much. It's come down pretty fast. And it's at 5%. I mean, that's not so super low, but it's not much worse than it was here. It's now back where it was at the Great Recession of 2008-9. So people with education, with advanced degrees, with college degrees, they're doing okay. This recession's largely missed them because they can work from home and all that kind of stuff, or transition to working from home, or work largely from home, or find another job if they lost their job. So education's helping. And interest rates are staying low for a long time. I mentioned that earlier, we have years of low interest rates. That's not going to change anything. So what's the fly in the ointment? The fly in the ointment is forbearance. Forbearance numbers are no question went way up. They went from here, infinitesimally small numbers, to really high numbers here, right? Somewhere mid-May. They were peaking out no matter where you look. Ginnie at the highest, or Fannie and Freddie at the very bottom, and in the middle, the average of the two. But since then, they've been going down. People have kept their jobs. This recession has skipped housing and made owning a home more desirable. It's hurt multifamily in the short run while they're going to pay their rent. And people who own condos want to get a house and get out of touching the elevator keys with all the other people in their apartment building, and that's horrible. So it's pushed everybody who lives in an apartment to a house. And if you can't pay your rent, you're not buying a house, but you weren't buying a house before anyways. So this sector is juiced housing, single family, detached housing primarily, at the expense of rentals and condos to some extent as well. So this process has legs. You can see here, even though delinquencies have skyrocketed, and this includes those in forbearance, even if they're paying, right? That's the way they measured it, right? Think about this. It's 8% rate, right? That means by this measure, 4 million homes. Let's suppose 1 million of those homes come on the market. Would we even notice? I don't think this does much damage to the housing demand market because the demand is insatiable for housing. If 100,000 new homes appeared in the market over 12 months, I don't think it'd have that much impact on it. Would it lower rate of growth? Maybe 1 percentage point, but hardly a lot. So this recession is completely different than the last recession, completely different. And you're in the single best sector in the US economy. And as I said, probably in the entire globe. I mean, as I mentioned before, maybe you got to go to Bohemia and Moravia, somewhere in the Czech Republic, former Czechoslovakia. I'm making this up just to find some evidence of something better, maybe in Belarus or something. I'm joking, right? Now, look at Nevada. Nevada is a great state. It's growing fast. People are moving there in droves. You're the 10th fastest growing state by total population. And you're a small state. Look at the population base here. Look at your population, 3 million people. Tennessee's twice as big. South Carolina, Colorado, twice as big. Washington State, 2.5 times as big. Then there are much bigger states like Texas or Florida that are 8, 9, 10 times bigger than you are, but you're 10th in total numbers. But wait, it gets better. Look at this. This is your percentage growth, 1.7. You should be sending thank you notes to Gavin Newsom. He's your best man. And if you haven't sent a thank them, send a thank you note to PG&E, Pacific Gas and Electric, for burning up all of California and now turning off all their power. This has done you a world of good. People are saying, get me out of here. Smog. So I have to be locked down in my house, and I have no electricity for air conditioning, and I'm paying a high price for the house I can't stand. Traffic is really bad, and gas is $4 a gallon. You've got to be kidding me. I moved to Florida from Maryland for the same reason. If I was in California, I'd have gladly moved east to Nevada to avoid these taxes. So Nevada is in a great geographical location. You can have dumb politicians in Carson City. It doesn't matter. They're dumber in Sacramento. And that's all that matters, right? Things are good. They really are. Enjoy the run. You're massively inventory starved. The economy will continue to improve. Oh, I put out 70 words every day on the economy. No graphs, no ads, no charts, no links, no photos. If you'd like to get it, you can go to my website, Econ70, on the landing page, go to the bottom. You can email me and I'll sign you up. Or you can text the word, guess what? Bow tie. No quotation marks. BOWTIE, one word, not a space, one word, to the 5-digit number 22828. You'll be prompted for an email address. You'll hear from me every day till you die. If you go to hell, you'll hear from me there too. Look, the economy is going to slow. I'd like to see it slow less with more government stimulus. If it doesn't come, it'll cause the recovery to take longer. But we are recovering, there's no doubt. And housing, the single best sector in the economy. And as I mentioned, low interest rates, demographics, favorable demographics, lack of supply, pent-up demand, reductions in forbearance. I mean, geez, you couldn't get, you got a flush, maybe not a royal flush, but you got a flush, to put it into gambling terms that you guys out there in Nevada know better. Enjoy the ride, make a killing, stay busy, and next year or 2 years from now, take a vacation, but work like a dog. I have plenty of time for questions. Bring on. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Madam President, I'm yours.
Oh my gosh, thank you, Elliot. We've been getting some really positive feedback One person said that this is the best Zoom meeting that they've attended. So we really appreciate you being here. I am going to start on the questions because we've got quite a few. So it looks like question number 1, how much longer will investment property owners be able to hold out with renters not paying rent? Will we see a large influx of investors dumping their properties?
I tend to think not. I think sales just seize up because we know that in a year or two, multifamily is going to be decent again. We're so underbuilt. And don't forget, house prices keep going up. That's the big problem. You get priced out. But Californians are so rich, they can keep moving east. They can kick you out of your home, but they can keep coming forever. So your market's, kind of strange like that. So multifamily is going to be very desirable. The question is, can we get through the next 12 months or 18 months or 6 months or whatever it is? In most areas, what we're seeing is very little transaction activity. So can you hold on to your property? That's the question. If they can't, then it goes to auction or the bank repossesses it or something. But short of that, the asset quality, the asset class is good. There's a short-term temporal problem.
Okay, thank you. Question number 2, do you think this pandemic will change the average person's view on savings and get people to have more in reserves for years to come?
I think it will certainly do something. It has to. This is too big a deal. And it depends how old you are, right? If you're 50 years old, yeah, whatever, you've seen things before, maybe not. But if you're 20 or 25, this could well be a seminal event in your life, like 9/11 was to a bunch of people, to many of us, right? It alters how you think of the world, and savings rates should be a little higher. It wouldn't surprise me if that. It wouldn't surprise me if we take a little bit less risk. It wouldn't surprise me if it changes our politics to some extent. But there'll certainly be a bunch of changes, and I'd like to think that savings will be one. Savings was really low before. We know it's gone way up in the last bunch of months. It's come down a bit, but it's still very, very high. So yeah, I would tend to think a little bit, yeah.
Awesome. Okay, thank you. Question number 3, insights into future actions of the Federal Reserve in the coming months. Insights into future actions of the Federal Reserve in the coming months. 0.
You see my 0? 0. The Fed,
Yeah.
the Fed has totally changed its perspective. The Fed's going to let the economy run hot, let inflation go high. It wants to see unemployment come down as fast as it can. That's the critical thing right now. Fast it can. And that means letting interest rates go. They're not going to raise rates preemptively to stop inflation that may show up. No. Rates are staying low. And if inflation does take off at the long end of the yield curve, I suspect the Fed will buy long-term bonds to drive interest rates down at the long end too. I mean, they got focused here. They're going to keep rates low. And the debt's high too. So to help the Treasury, they'll probably engage in long-term bond buying too. Economists call this financial repression. Not a great word. It's a true concept, but they're going to try and keep rates as low as they can for as long as they can. I would not worry about that. Don't go, buyers aren't, you can't tell you, like, oh, buy now, rates are low. They're low, but they're going to stay low for a while.
Okay. Yeah, that is a tactic used by many, isn't it?
I'm sure it must. If I were a realtor, I would use
it. How would the deficit impact the recovery?
So in the short run, we need to increase the deficit. You've heard me say we need more stimulus to keep the economy growing. That's going to increase the deficit, and then the debt, of course. So it's a bad thing. Don't get me wrong. I mean, I'm mildly right of center. My economists are generally right of center. But the thing is, it's bad to raise the debt and deficit. But the alternative in this case is worse. That's the point that matters here, right? It's, democracy is a terrible form of government, but everything else is worse. So it's what's the alternative? And look, when the house is burning down, you get the water pails and you put the fire out. You don't care about the water bill. You pay the water bill tomorrow. We're going to have to pay the piper here. And that comes back to the financial repression I spoke about earlier, and artificially low interest rates, and a whole bunch of weird things to keep interest costs down. But and the debt will slow GDP growth. There's no question. Higher debts lead to slower GDP growth, but having a recession last much longer is even worse than that. So this is the lesser of the evils.
Okay, very good. And then going back into the deficit, this is from Bill Conrad. How did the state deficit affect housing? And then the second part is, what is the forecast for impact fees and permits on home builders?
Well, I didn't hear the first part. Let me do the second part because I heard that. Those things are all domestic, right? That's all decided at the county level and the city level across the country. There's very little federal housing policy beyond the mortgage interest deduction and LIHTC. There are certain big policies, but impact fees are all locally determined. I would suspect that governments are going to be desperate for money, quite frankly. So if I were a government, I'd be thinking, oh, I need money. I'm gonna increase taxes or fees on everything: parking tickets, library books, cell phones, whatever I can attack. It depends how much the feds give us. If the feds give us money for COVID-19 relief, it'll be less severe. But if the states don't get any money and they can't shovel money to the counties and cities, I would suspect they're going to try and raise money all over the place because they're going to have these huge deficits. They're going to have to fire tons of people and cut services or raise taxes somehow. And builders and developers will be caught in that mix like everybody else, is what I suspect. The first half of the question I didn't hear, I'm sorry.
Oh, no, I thank you. I think it went into touching about housing, but it looks like you covered it.
Okay.
Okay, so if a house that was in forbearance sells, it would probably have some equity. So do you think they could move and keep the economy moving?
That's a great question. And whoever said it was bang on.
Do you want me to repeat that?
No, it's fine. I think I got it.
Good.
I mean, it's a great question. This is very different than 12 years ago. 12 years ago, people were upside down in their house. They didn't pay their mortgage. They didn't care about their house. Now, with positive equity, they cannot pay their mortgage. The bank can say, look, stay in your house. You'll live there for free. We'll sell the house, and we'll give you a check when you walk out because there's so much equity. You're house rich and cash poor. So the banks aren't going to repossess the houses. The people aren't going to leave. They're not going to wreck their house. It's a very different situation than it was. That's why this forbearance problem is very different than it was 12 years ago. I touched on that at the end of my presentation, but you're right on. These houses will come on very slowly. They'll be sold in a normal fashion by women and men like you. You know, they'll go to realtors and you'll sell them on a regular, it won't be a flash sale. It won't be on the courthouse steps because there's equity in the house and that changes everything. So this is going to be a much slower process, and the longer it takes, the better, because house prices keep going up. So this forbearance problem is not great news, don't get me wrong, but it's the level of destructivity is tiny by comparison to last time.
Thank you. Okay, we've got another question from Dave Hansen. It's kind of open-ended. It just says, what about student debt?
Okay, so student debt's a great question. And this is okay, so student debt used to be very low and it's been growing very rapidly. It went up so fast, so much, it's now starting to slow down. People are realizing, is it worthwhile? Some schools are offering rebates and so on, but the rate of growth is not going up. But it takes longer to get out from under the burden of student debt. So people who are 50, 55, 60, for example, they graduated college with almost no debt. They could get a job and a couple of years later buy a house. Now it takes longer. So A, it takes longer. And B, you have to finish your degree. Once you start college, you cannot stop. Because if you stop, you have the debt and you have no degree. You can't go to an employer and say, I have a bachelor's degree. So you must, and you hopefully find a major that's appropriate for you. Picking the wrong major now gets expensive too, because you can't go back and take an extra year or two of college. It's just too expensive. So this is all takes them longer to graduate because they're working a little bit. So everyone's taking longer. Our grandparents, the greatest generation, by the time they were 20, they had beaten the Nazis, come back to America, gotten a bachelor's degree on the GI Bill, gotten married, built a house, and had a kid. You know, I was 20, I was still sucking my thumb. The kids now at 20 are still in diapers and still in high school. I'm joking, but you get my point. So this lot of debt just delays them getting out, getting on their own. It's taking every generation a couple of years longer, a year or two longer to get going. These guys will get there, the Zers, but it may take them an extra year, and they have to finish their college.
Perfect. And then one more question. Since inflation is so low now, and there's a lot of stimulus money that is floating out there, can we expect very high inflation in the future? And if so, when?
That's a great question. I touched on this a little bit, but let's explore it in a little bit more detail. I don't see it. If you look at historical levels of inflation around current levels of inflation, around the world, there isn't any. And there wasn't prior to the pandemic. China, no. Europe, no. Australia, no. Japan, no. Canada, no. Where is it? And a lot of this has to do with aging. As we, as a society, as average age drifts up, we become much more risk averse. We're not going to bet the farm at 65. Oh yeah, let's invest all my money in some new firm. No way. So we take a lot less risk. Our economy is a lot less dynamic than it was. GDP just isn't going to be that fast growing. So we're not going to have a lot of inflation, although we'll have a little more than we had before, but not much growth. It's hard to see inflation going. Look, the last 10 years since the global financial crisis of 2008-9 till the pandemic of 2020, we had unemployment the last year or two of under 4%, and we couldn't generate inflation. In Japan, inflation is now negative again. In Europe, core inflation is negative. The European Central Bank has negative rates. England's now talking about negative rates. The negative rates in Australia. They're negative rates in Switzerland. I'm more concerned about going the other way than having rapid inflation in the long run. I mean, oil can bump up, food prices can go crazy. Anything can happen for a short period of time, but to have systemic big inflation, you need wages to go up a lot. They were just starting to go up in 2019. Per capita income, or house income in 19 was, the data came out last week. It grew by $4,000 or $5,000 compared to 18. It was a great year, but yet there still wasn't inflation. So it's inflation may be something I don't know how old you are who's asking this question. Was it Dave who's asking the question? But I'm suspecting you're over 55 years old and you remember the inflation of the 70s. But talk to your kids or grandkids. They have no concerns about inflation. Inflation is something stuck in the head of people who are old. And I just don't see it happening going forward. Erica, you're like 35. You don't remember inflation.
That was me who asked that question.
Well, you're like 35, so you have no recollection of this stuff.
I'll take it.
Yeah,
it's okay.
I just don't see it. I cannot just, yeah, sure. If whoever the next president is, if it's Trump or Biden, if Trump wins or Biden wins, and they put a stooge in a central bank chair, okay, that makes me nervous, right? You put a stooge in, that's bad. But if the central bank does what it's been doing and does what it says it's going to do, inflation may get to 2.5%, 2 3/4, but this is not like the huge inflation of Jimmy Carter or early Ronald Reagan. No way. Just a little inflation maybe, but nothing.
All right. Well, thank you, Elliot. I think that covers it for our questions. Thank you for joining us today and for all the wonderful information. Yeah, it was a lot of information. I'm so glad. We do have this recorded. Many people have asked, can they watch this? Yes, go to RSAR's page on our YouTube channel, and we'll get this uploaded just as fast as we can. If you'd like more information from Elliot, visit his website at econ70.com. All this information will be available on the association website also after this meeting. So, all right, well, thank you everybody for attending. Before we go, I would like to give a big shout out to our 2020 affiliate partners. Without their support, events like this would not be possible. So thank you to Big Valley Mortgage, Greater Nevada Mortgage, Northern Nevada Regional MLS, Old Republic Home Protection, Prime Lending, Capital Glass, Homebridge, Nevada Rural Housing Authority, primary residential mortgage, and TICOR titles. And please join us this Thursday, September 24th at 5 p.m. for our virtual Gaslight Follies 2.0 musical benefit concert for Eddie House, featuring the musical stylings of Mark Ashworth, Nanette Fink-Eaton, Kate Wilson, Larry Payton, Kirsten Bailey, Danny Podesta, and Shirley Larkin. I bet you didn't even know that they were all musically talented inclined. So I'm really excited to watch this. I hope that you join us. We are really trying desperately to raise money for Eddie House. We also can take donations. And don't forget that next month, we're going to be doing another document deconstruction day where we're going to invite you to bring your donations for Eddie House and any monetary donation in hopes of raising money for these kids. Thank you to our 2020 partners and the following event sponsors for the support of the Gaslight Follies: Abby Agency, Angelica Reyes and the team at Right Choice Realty, Kevin Calvelli and team at Summit Funding. And the link to this virtual benefit concert can be found on the association website, the Northern Nevada Regional MLS Launchpad, and Facebook. This event is open to everyone, open to the public. So please spread the word, share the link. And now for the winner of the $50 gift card. I picked a number earlier in the meeting. The number was 26. And the winner is Kathy Fink. Oh, let's see, who was it? Kathleen Fink. Oh, there she is, Kathleen Fate. And I remember she's over at Prairie Lund. So congratulations. Please reach out to Katie from our association. She'll also reach out to you. And please do not forget, our next monthly membership meeting will be held on Thursday, October 19th, 2020. And we're going to have Paula. She is an excellent inspirational speaker. She was our regional RVP through NAR last year. And everybody who has seen her speak in the past just loves her. So I hope that you will join us. Thank you again for joining us today, and have a wonderful week. And that concludes our meeting. Thank you.